So how to build your own chronic illness support group. What does it take? Where do I start? I mean, chances are you don't go looking for something like this until something actually happens. A friend of yours gets diagnosed with a chronic illness, you're diagnosed with a chronic illness. What am I going to do about this? Well, first we run around and we try to figure out what is this actual thing that I have to deal with. And we're also dealing with all the emotional turbulence of adjusting to something that just occurred to us. The initial shock of the boom, here it is. So what do we do now though? Because it is a great idea. One of the best things you could possibly do for yourself if you have the chronic illness, or as a support person, it's almost essential. Because as a support person, your job is to do what you can to support the person with the chronic illness. But it's a really good idea to develop a very similar structure underneath you so that you can be there when you need to be there. You could be there strongly so that you can look back on it and it will have been a meaningful, if not difficult, situation. So how do we build something like that? At first, we want to just take a look at your natural resources. Are you married? Do you have a partner, a life partner, a roommate, somebody that's close to you, somebody you've been with for quite some time, family member? I mean, these things typically congeal on their own. But if you're in a situation where that's not the case, then we're going to need to create our own. To try to go through this alone and isolated, we're going to add all that extra on top of the chronic illness itself. It's going to make it even more difficult. Now, a good hospital system program will have different supports in place for you, and going to see your physician, working with the PA, working with the nurse practitioner, and whatever the teams happen to be, that's part of your support network. That's your team. Now, I also know that you get 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour, and when you're with them, they're telling you a bunch of stuff, you're asking a bunch of questions, and you don't necessarily remember all of that. Oh, so by the way, number one rule, always have a notebook. And if you can, audio tape it, if they allow you to do that. But at the very least, write things down, or have your support person write things down, and make sure that you get things down. So they're part of your team. The medical group, they're kind of like your base. They're what should be there in place. What do we do for the rest of the time? 1/2 hour out of a week. That's not enough when it comes to the support network. Well, here's where you need to get creative. If you're the person with the illness, you probably will have people that you're close to and they are going to come forth. If you don't, then like I said, you're going to need to be a little bit more creative. Plug into where you work, communities that are tied to the hospital. There are usually support groups. It just takes a little bit of digging around. A lot of times at the hospital there'll be a social worker there that will be aware of all kinds of different programs for all the different kinds of chronic illnesses or situations that you might find yourself in. You can look online. There's things like Meetup where you can try to select a group that's designed to address that issue, like an anxiety group or dealing with Crohn's or dealing with cancer. There are groups out there. One word of caution, though, is that you should go and just check it out. But if it's a group where there's just a lot of complaining, a lot of negativity, that's probably not your best bet. Although done right, there can be a little bit of venting, and that leads me to different types of therapeutic support groups. Find a therapist that deals with chronic health and see if they have something that they can offer. At the very least, you could set up appointments with that person to be able to walk through as you're going through, and they can even be on your team to help you find more team members if you don't have more of the traditional teammates. But oftentimes, it's the family. It's the spouse, it's the partner, it's the children, it's the parents. And they're going to be that initial part of the support team. And now we roll down and out a little bit further, it's going to be your community, it's going to be your churches, it's going to be your Ys, your community centers, your all kinds of different social groups, the bowling club or the chess club or whatever it is that you do. I'm sure you'll find or have made a few connections there. And if you were to simply ask them and let them know what was going on, they'll help. Maybe not exactly like you would like, but they'll help a little. And keep in mind that most of us don't like to ask for that kind of help. We don't want to be a burden. This is something I've heard countless times in session. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to ask them. But you're sick and you can't do it all on your own. I mean, you could, I guess, if we were to equate the illness to moving from your apartment and you have large pieces of furniture, I suppose you could just hire a team that's kind of like your medical staff to come in and move. But close friends will come and help you move that. You're not asking them to do it over and over and over again, but you are asking them just to be there for you. And if there is that connection, and this is a way to build a connection if you've let it go, it's like, hey, it's been a while, but this is what's going on. Is there any way I might be able to get a little bit of support? Even if it's just we jump on Skype and we chat once a week or once a month, or I just kind of give you an update. So be creative, look in strange places for those, and then reinforce the ones you have. And more importantly, don't be afraid to ask. What's the worst they can say? Ooh, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Oh, and if they do that, don't take it personal. There's a lot going on. So when somebody says, I have cancer, or somebody says, I have Crohn's, or I'm dealing with a heart disease, and they ask somebody to help, that means that that person has to be okay personally with being in a situation that might be life or death, that may be chronic, or may remind them of some other person that they once worked with, and it might be too much for them in that moment. So it's not personal. We have a defense mechanism, all of us do. So, but you can still ask, and if they're like, oh no, or even if they're like, no, I can't do that, I can't do that again, don't take it personal. You will, but just be able to step back and separate from it. Just pull back and go, oh, there's probably something there I don't know. Try to always assume positive intent if possible. So we want to just go ahead and assume that positive intent, ask people, and slowly build a group of 3 to 5 to maybe 7 in your initial circle, in this close group. If you think of it as a pyramidal structure, the people that are in the stones that are just below you, or if you are the support person, you can still use that. You can put yourself on top as the support person with other people below you so that you can then plug into the other pyramid of support for somebody else and support that person. So we could just have pyramids all over the place. We can have support all over the place. And of course, if you don't know where else to turn, you can just send a comment below. You can send me an email, and I will do my best to help you find something as well. I hope that this was useful. I hope you found something here to help. And I hope you get through whatever it is you might be working on at this time. Please do subscribe if you want to get more updates as they come out. And make sure to like the video so that we can get the word out to other people who would also benefit from this too. I wish you well, and I wish you the very best.